I struggle with doing the things that I know I need to do. I have all of these ideas of things I can do and things that I'm capable of. In fact, I expect myself to perform at a certain level, and yet when I look at what I've done, I struggle to see the results because I keep pushing myself to go, hey, you want to do this, but the moment it starts to happen, I go, I could do anything else. And this is a struggle I've had for a very long time. And it's funny because the moment I start looking at video games or other sort of things where I play a different character, I do the most monotonous and boring tasks over and over hundreds and thousands of times just so I can see a number go up from 2 to 3. And that becomes my whole life. I want to see that number tick over. And what is it about that? Why can't I just do these boring, monotonous tasks in real life? The fact that I can't even start most of them in real life is something that makes me think, what have games figured out that we don't do in our day-to-day lives? And that's when we start bringing in the concept of gamification. The idea that we can use gamified elements that are used to trick our brains in these games to do things, yet take those elements and move them into real life so we actually start doing the things that we really want to be doing and progressing in a way that makes us feel fulfilled, while also finding the motivation to continue doing the boring tasks that get us there. There's many techniques in gamification, and in particular, I like referencing the Octalysis framework by Yu-Kai Chao. In this framework, there is 8 identifiable aspects that help us start to figure out what makes games so compelling. So going through them, the first one is epic meaning and calling. The idea that we have something that we're working towards, a greater purpose than that in which is right in front of us. You look towards the hero's journey when it comes to these grand adventures, and there's always a purpose that is greater than what the person is doing in that moment. By defining this epic meaning, we can start to provide a value that pushes us past what we need to do and starts to answer that why. Why are we doing things? Why are we keep moving forward and struggling through the hardship so that we can achieve whatever it is that we're working towards? The second pillar is that of accomplishment. Something in which we actually get for doing the things that we're doing. Do we get experience or gold for doing a task? Do we actually start to level up because we've done the challenge that has been put in front of us? This is where you see a lot of elements like success rates or achievement bars that help visually define how far along in your journey you are and help feeding that dopamine release that we get when we start to see that we are achieving progress. The third pillar is that of empowerment. What is it about the world that we're interacting with that will give us feedback to show that we are actually doing something? Is it that if we get hit and don't do the things we need to do, we lose health? Or is it the fact that if we keep doing this thing, we may win, we may get some gold, whatever it is? This is also directly tied to the other pillars that we're going to be defining, because once you find a semblance of connection between them, you can start to really define each of them as a benefit to each other and start to multiply the effects it's having on the person who's playing the game. So when looking at empowerment, what are the choices that the person who is playing gets to make, and how does that affect the way that they're playing the game? The fourth pillar is ownership. What about the experience is directly tied to the player? Is it that they have an avatar that they can start defining how they look, change up their armor and their stats to start defining the character to who they want it to be, to change up so they can suit their playstyle, but also start expressing themselves in a creative way? Once we start defining these connections to the characters playing, we have a much more deep-seated connection to that said character and much more likely to follow along with their journey as if it is that of our own. And before we move on to the next aspects, I want to first define that the first 4 that we've just discussed have fit under the category of white hat. This means that they're usually used in a good format. No matter what we do with these, they're usually going to be beneficial to the end user. But like both sides of a coin, there is always going to be the other side, the black hat. And this is what these other 4 are going to be. I'll take a moment here to define though, this does not mean that they are inherently bad. These are a lot of techniques that are also used in marketing to help influence us to do certain things. In the wrong hands, yes, they can be used to manipulate you into doing things that really don't have any benefit to you. But if used in a productive way, they can be used as effectively as the white hat to get you to do the things that you want to do. So let's move on to pillar number 5, that of social influence. This is where we actually start to define the community around it. The fact that you can do something and other people can see it and go, I either approve or disapprove. Likewise, we can use the group mentality to help motivate certain actions. It should be no surprise that humans are a social being. We usually follow trends and people because we define ourselves as part of that tribe, and therefore to survive in that tribe, we will actually assimilate to the goals and perspectives of those around us. So looking at games, this is where they start using elements like guilds and group to help motivate you to work towards a collective goal. The 6th pillar is that of scarcity, something that has a limited amount of goes before it's gone. A lot of games use this when it comes to the amount of things you can do in a day. You have a certain amount of energy and you can only do a certain amount of action. So what are those actions you're going to be doing? And one example that you'll find in most mobile games is that of the energy resource, the one in which you only get a certain amount of gems to spend every day on a certain thing. That way, it keeps you coming back, doing it day in, day out, and keeping you consistent with whatever the goal is that that thing is achieving. The seventh pillar is that of curiosity. Again, the human race is a curious species. We are built on questions and ideas we do not understand, yet want to strive to understand. What would happen if we press this? What would happen if we go there? In games, this is often used in regards to the thing in the background, the mountain that we see that we know we're going to be going to. I wonder what's happening over there. Likewise, this is where you start to define, ooh, we heard a rumor that there's a mystical sword in the cave over there. And it pushes us towards this journey of trying to find out if that's true or not and what that sword is going to be. And the final pillar is that of avoidance. Now, in life, we are usually thinking that we're defined by the things that make us feel good, but we're also equally, if not more, defined by the things that make us feel bad. If we don't do something, we lose health. And that makes us want to go, okay, I need to keep doing that thing so I don't lose health. So figuring out what the bad experience is and looming that as a punishment over the person who's playing can help motivate them to do positive actions. Now, throughout all of this, you've probably had ideas of different ways that these have influenced you, both good and bad. And when we start to collectively push them together, we see how much influence these have in games, and yet we don't really use them in real life when we're starting to define our own actions. And why is that? Why don't we understand how to make our brains work in a way that actually benefits us? And well, that's a question that I had. And I started to delve into why I was thinking certain ways, what was motivating me to do more, and how I could start living my life as one of these video game characters or that of someone in an RPG. And that's when I decided to create the Real Life RPG. A system that is built around gamifying real life, tricking our brains into doing the things that we know we need to do, making sure that the goals that we're working towards are defined by us and not defined by others, and supporting ourselves every single day to consistently move towards those goals in a way that feels fulfilling instead of punishing. So now that we have an understanding of why I've made this system, let's jump over to Notion. I'll show you the system in full and how you can use it to start leveling up and live your life to the fullest with the idea that you become the hero of your own journey. So this is the Real Life RPG system. It is built inside of Notion and is compatible with all accounts. So if you have a free one, all of this will still work with your account. When starting it out, you will actually be looking at quite an empty interface, and that's because we haven't gone through and properly defined your character. Over on the left here, you can see that there is some elements that are starting to show your character. But in order to properly start all of this, we need to go down to this area, which is called the player menu, and starting our journey. Over on the right, there's a little button that if we press that, it will open up a new page in which we can start defining our character. It will introduce the concept behind all this, and once you're ready, you can press start your journey. This will go through and start really generating a lot of different accounts, as you can see. 33 pages have been edited, and once created, it will load up the new page. So here you can see the next page, which is going to help us define our character. Now there's three main elements that we're going to be creating in this part. The name of our character, the picture of our character, and the overall color scheme that we want to use to influence the rest of the system. Now when picking a name, this can be your name or a name that you find represents the type of character you want to play. I personally like to use the word Destroller because that's a name that I've defined over the years as something close to me that has meaning more than just my name. The color, I'm going to pick orange. And when it comes to the avatar portrait, I have personalized ones that I've created, but if you are struggling to find a character or a picture that you think represents you, there is a collection down here that you can use, be it a goblin, a jester, so on and so forth. I'm going to pick one in here that I've actually created previously. And this is because I've also found that animated GIFs work really well in Notion because there's just that extra bit of life that it creates. And once we've done all that, we're going to click on the Get Started page, and it's going to take us back to an overall interface and start to see how there's a little bit more life, because over in this top left-hand corner, we now have a defined player avatar character. Now, if we take the time to zoom in on that, we'll start to see a variation of different elements that help make up this character. You'll see at the top, we have our new picture. This picture or player avatar is a representation of who we are in this system. Now again, as I defined previously, Notion works really well with GIFs, and in here, this will size to be suitable to this interface. Now, I recommend using a square picture, but have the main focus be zoomed in, because as you can see, this one was a square, but it kind of cut off the top and bottom. But when you use it in different interfaces like the mobile, this will actually change dependent on the screen size, so keep that in mind. Below that, we have our character name or our avatar name. Again, I wrote Destroller because that's who I am. Below that, we actually start to get into the fun things, and this is going to be your class. Throughout this system, as you level up, gain experience, and start defining your levels a little bit more, you'll have access to a large collection of classes that we've created. You could choose to be the mage or the warrior, or you can start to delve into different secret ones. Now, I'm not going to define any of them because I want you to explore. Try and find out different elements of your character so you can start to build out. I'll show you how to choose your class a little bit later. But for now, let's keep moving on. And you see below that, we have our character level. As we continue doing the tasks and achieving the goals we want to achieve, this number will naturally start going up. Overall in the system, there is 100 levels, but do be warned, getting to level 100 is one hell of a task, and by the time you get there, well, congratulations are certainly in order. Below that, we have our health value. Now, throughout doing these things, one of the big aspects that we're going to have to be careful of is the damage that our character takes if we don't keep doing the things that we want to be doing. And likewise, we are going to be striving for doing more. Now, this also includes fighting battles, and this will be a part of the video a little bit later where we actually start choosing what enemy we're going to be fighting and what benefits we're going to get from that. Moving further down in this list, we have our experience. As we continue doing tasks throughout our days, we'll start gaining experience based on the difficulty of that task and how important that task is to our overall goals. As we start collecting this experience, we'll hit a threshold. You'll see right now that I have 0 out of 1800 experience. Once I hit 1800 experience, my level will go up. And likewise, the next amount of experience that I'll need to gather will go up as well. Now, this is going to be exponential, so if you ever try and get to level 100, do be warned, there is a lot of experience points that you will need to gather. Finally, we have our gold value, and this will also be tied directly to the task that we are achieving. Depending on how difficult the task is, we'll be rewarded with gold that we can spend at a later date in our shop. But again, let's not jump the gun, that's later in the video, we will go over that. But for now, let's focus on this final little area called the PRISM levels. If you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know that I defined the PRISM levels as 5 core aspects of the things that we do to help start living a more balanced life. There is 5 different values: perspective, relationships, intelligence, strength, and moxie. And these values can cover all the different tasks that we do in our life. Your perspective is how you see and understand the world, how you explore new experiences, interact with new things, and start expanding how you see the world. Example tasks for this are things like going and experiencing a new place, going and watching a new show or movie that can help you expand how other people see the world. Once you start to understand other people's values, you can start to see where you may be lacking or question what you know. Because if we want to grow, we will need to question our own perspective at times. Moving on to relationships. We are, as defined earlier, a social creature. When we start to leverage that social influence, we can really start to tweak our lives to be the ones we want to be. So relationship tasks are all based around that which is external to us. If we are interacting with someone else, it is going to be most likely a relationship task. Spending time with loved ones, going and meeting a new person, going and just doing things in a social setting. These can all be difficult tasks, but something we need to do if we want to have a more well-rounded experience. The next is intelligence, and this is making sure that we're keeping our brains active, learning new things, refining new skills. If you are spending time reading a book, watching a documentary, or studying for a certain exam, these are all intelligence-based tasks. Likewise, if you are spending time each day at a computer trying to understand how something works, working on a coding project, these are all going to be intelligence-based tasks. And next we have strength. Now these tasks are going to be everything in relation to your physical health. This can be you going to the gym, going for a walk, taking care of yourself, drinking water each day. Different tasks that are making sure that your physical experience is the best it can be, and you are making sure that it is always going to be moving forward, because once you start to focus on your physical health, every other element of your life also gets better. Now, I'm not saying these are going to be all things focused on lifting weights and whatnot, but maybe just waking up at a certain time each day, or even defining a specific sleep schedule so that you can really be gaining the right amount of sleep each night. These are all going to be strength-based tasks. And finally, we have our moxie tasks. These are all tasks that are built on discipline and self-refinement. If there is a skill that you need practice in, then doing it every day is going to be a moxie task. If there is chores that you know you need to do but really don't feel like doing them, these are moxie tasks because they are focused on using your discipline to do the things you know you need to do. And one of the fun aspects behind the PRISM levels is that these are how you start to unlock your new classes. So start thinking about how you want to define a certain class, and you may start focusing on a different type of task. I will give you a heads up though. As you start exploring these new classes, you are going to have a more well-rounded PRISM level system. So making sure that you are doing a variety of tasks that focus on all areas of the PRISM system to make sure you are a well-rounded adventurer. Moving back into the main interface, you'll note that there's also a big section to the right that is devoted to 2 main sections, your quests and your tasks. So to start off with, you'll see that there's 2 buttons up the top here, create new quest and create new task. The order should always be defining your quest first and your task afterwards. So if you click one of these, you'll note a form pops up that have a certain amount of questions. You define your quest name, the type of quest, be it main or side, your main quest being the ones that are helping you move towards your idyllic goals, and side being everything that is not directly contributing to them. The due date, because once you have a defined due date, you can really start to zone in on getting things done. And like with your character, being able to define a color that helps create this connection to each of these projects at a visual glance. If I choose a yellow task, it might mean my health or moving forward with a physical activity, whereas purple, for me, is more admin tasks. And finally, if you have an image that's related to the quest, because once you start creating them, you can have a visual idea of what these quests are and help motivate yourself with a certain image. Finally, you press the create quest and it will generate a section of quests up in this top area. So give me a second and I'll generate some quests to show you what they look like. So I've gone through and created 4 main quests. The first being the real life RPG system, the interface you're looking at now, making sure that it's actually getting out to you guys. Then I have 3 others: baking, my D&D campaign, and climbing. And each of these you can see are defined by the task type. So there's 1 main quest, 3 side quests, and then there is also a definition of time remaining. You'll note that I have 2 days remaining here, but the other ones are weeks. And one thing you'll find with this is that by default, it will be based on weeks, but if something is due within 1 week, it will automatically transfer over to days. And likewise, the ordering of these will be based on if it is a main task, and then how many remaining days or weeks there are for that task. So once they're created, there are 2 ways then we can start making the tasks for them. The first is to press this create new task button. So you'll note that if we press this create new task button, another form will pop up where we can start to define our tasks. So the first thing you're going to be doing is defining the quest that you want it to contribute towards. So if I wanted to contribute to baking, when I click in here, I'll go into the drop down menu and select the baking one. Then we have our name, whichever the task name is going to be. So you can look at it at a glance, go, that's what I need to get done. How important the task is, 1 being not very important, 5 being very important. A deadline, and every task should have a deadline, even if you do adjust it at a later date. Now we start getting into more of the interesting aspects of how we sort these tasks. So every task can fit into one of the 5 main PRISM level categories. And again, if you need a reminder of what they're going to be, there's a little section here that helps you understand that. But you can only select one of these at a time. So keep that in mind when you're defining your tasks as to which one they are contributing to the most. Then another aspect is if there is a task that needs to be done before this one. Let's say you need to buy a certain pair of shoes before you can go running. Then you need to click in here and select the task that's going to be using it. Again, haven't created any tasks yet, so there's going to be nothing there. And finally, now that Notion can actually start making repeating tasks, this is how we can start defining our habits and really start making an impact on the tasks that we need to do without having to load up our task management every single time and keeping it super cluttered. So there are 3 core values: how often something is going to repeat, be it days, weeks, months, or years, how often the task will repeat. So if we want it to repeat every 2 days, we select days and then 2. And then one of the really fun things that we found that we could do with specific repeating days is if you set it to days and 1, you can then go through and select it to be every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. A new task will be generated off of this once you complete a task previously. Now, the other way we can go through and generate these tasks is, let's say we click into one of our projects, it will load up this interface that will tell us when the due date is, how many days or weeks are remaining, how many tasks are complete, that will come up in a second, what the status of the progress of our thing is, so in progress or archived. It will have our cover image, the quest type, and our project color. And then down here, you'll see a little button that says create tasks. If we press that and give it a second, it will load an interface that will actually give us a way to start helping define what our quest is. So there's 2 questions that I recommend answering before we even get into the tasks. But the first one being is, what is the desired result from this quest? Why are we doing something? It could be that we want a certain body type. It could be that we're trying to pass a test. It could be that we're trying to earn a certain amount of money. Whatever it is, once we actually have that idea there, we can really define what is going to be that end result line where we go, okay, I have achieved it. If we can objectively mark something as complete, then we can go, yes, that is finished. Instead of saying, oh, I want to do push-ups, saying, oh, I want to do 10 push-ups. Giving that objective number of, hey, have we done 10? Yes, no. Because once that's defined, we can really start to refine what we're trying to do each day. And then over here, we can actually start going through and adding tasks. But again, this way is a little bit more clunky because you have to sort of roll through, press all of these, and it makes it harder to do repeating tasks. So what I'd recommend is go through, start answering these questions, and then go back and create new tasks. And again, give me a second, I'm gonna start creating a few tasks, I'll be back. So I've gone through and created a few tasks, and you can see now in this lower section, I have 3 tasks that are due today. Technically, I actually have more than that, which we'll see in a second. But these are actually going through a system that is basing its importance on a couple of different values. When it's due, the impact of the task itself, and different other little elements that aren't super important to understand, but just know that when you're going through and answering those questions for the new task, they're actually going into a system that is prioritizing these elements and choosing the tasks that are the most important for you and putting them at the top, and then the lower ones being put at the bottom. And there's 3 main views for this: tasks due today, tasks due this week, and then priority tasks. So you can see more of the options that are there in the order of the priority for them. So if we go back to today's tasks, right now I'm recording the system walkthrough, but let's say I'm done with that. Over on the right, you see that there is a couple of different values: the day it's due, the experience that it's going to give me, so I'll get 250 experience for this, and then 13 gold as well. So if I click that off by pressing the complete button, it will add a couple different values down in different pages, as you can see down here, and you can immediately see that edit walkthrough pops up. Because if I go through into the actual real life RPG task management quest, you'll note that down the bottom here, I had to complete the record walkthrough before I could edit it. So that's a cool way to just make sure that you are doing the tasks in order and not cluttering the tasks that you need to get done. But if I go through to, say, this week, you can see I'm feeding my starter tomorrow, and right now it's worth 100 experience. I have 250 over here, and if I go and click that, you'll note that once it actually syncs it all, I have 352, which is more than the amount of experience it was offering. And that's because I did it ahead of time. And now you can see that feed starter was also generated again. But if you complete a task ahead of time, it will actually add a little bit of a benefit to both the experience and the goal that you're achieving. And now that we've started to achieve things, we can start interacting with things like the shop. So you'll note in my character, I have 20 gold. And if I go into the unaffordable items, there's going to be a couple of options here that I can't buy: a large potion and a small potion. And these will heal you in relation to how much health you have and your level. So this will actually go up dependent on your level and heal you an appropriate amount. So if I go back to the affordable items, you'll note now that because I have 20 gold, there is an item here that I can buy. And this is the shield. And this will protect you from 1 damage from the boss fight. And that's when we're going to start getting over into this area over here. You'll note that there is an active boss battle section underneath the player avatar. Now right now that's empty because we do not have an enemy that we're versing. But you'll note down lower, there is a player menu. Right now there's 4 options. So if we click on the choose your enemy, it will open up a new page where we can actually go through and choose an enemy that we're going to be fighting. By default, there will be a certain amount of enemies that you can verse. This is going to be based on your level and then 3 levels above you. So you'll see that we have level 1, 2, 3, and 4 with the enemies that we can fight. Right now, each of these enemies actually have values as well, both their health and their attack. The health is how many tasks we're going to have to complete in order to kill these creatures, and the attack is based on how much damage they're going to do to you every single day. So before you start going in and jumping at the highest level creature, note that it's going to be doing 13 attack every day, which is more than you currently have health for. So keep that in mind. Right now, I'm going to choose the rat. I'm going to click start battle. It's going to ask me if this is what I want, and note that if we defeat this creature and it notes that it's dead, we will gain bonus experience for killing it. So I'm going to continue. It's going to select that as the active enemy. And if we go back to the main interface, you can see now down here, we have our enemy that we're versing. The rat, he has 20 health and he's going to be doing 2 damage tomorrow. And alongside that, I also have now given myself a little bit more gold. And you can see that I have access to potions that will heal me should it do damage, but also I can start protecting myself. If I buy 2 of these shields that will protect me from 1 damage, the damage that this rat will do now is 0. So now that I've gone and bought those 2 shields, if we zoom in on the actual enemy that we're versing, you'll note that it still has its 20 health because we haven't completed any tasks in relation to since it has started, but also now it's going to be doing 0 damage tomorrow. If I click off a few of my tasks that need to get done today, you'll note that its health starts going down. And by the time it gets to 0 health, it will be dead and we can choose a new enemy to start versing and get the benefit of the experience that this one has offered. And finally, we're going to go through a few of the other little options down here in the player menu. The first one is actually going to be choosing our class. Now, right now, we only have one level in each aspect. But if we click into the select your class option, you'll note that I can select the apprentice class, which is what we're starting with. But I can also click this little tab here, that's the next classes. And this will give me an idea of what I actually need to do. If we once again zoom in on these, you'll note that each of these are needing different requirements to unlock them. So you'll see that the mage, I need to have 3 levels in intelligence. I need to have 3 in moxie for the thief, 3 in strength for the warrior, and then 3 in perspective for the healer. Now, each of these also require a level 1 in all of these other values, but because we start there, that's already ticked off. As we go through the levels, you'll need to actually unlock certain character classes before you can unlock other ones. You'll need to unlock a base mage before you can start unlocking the elemental mage, and so on and so forth. So start playing around. Start unlocking different classes once you can, when they pop up in the pick your class option. Because once you do, you'll start seeing these other little hidden classes that are popping around the place. So now if we jump back to the dashboard, we can go back to the main interface, and there's 2 other options down in this player menu. The first, I want to click on the View Progress button. What this is going to do is open up a page that actually starts showing us the type of tasks we've been completing and when we've been completing them. Now, right now, this is a new interface, so I've only completed 5 options today. As we go through, this will start charting out, and we can start looking at from the past 7 days, past 2 weeks, the current month, and then the past 3 months as well. And this will give us an idea of the type of things that we are completing and what days we may be more productive than others. This sort of information can be vitally important when we're starting to refine how we work in our day-to-day lives. Now, if I go back to that main interface once more, I want to go over this last option down here in the player menu, and this is the Reduce Lag button. And once we load up this page, you'll be greeted with this little interface that will give you an idea of what this is doing. Basically, over time, Notion can be overloaded with the amount of connections that it needs to use. And to help refine this so that it is actually going a little bit quicker, what we can do is actually create a system that reduces the lag. So what we're going to do is write down our current experience, so 1052, and then our current gold, 137. We're going to submit that, and then we're going to click the reduce lag after the task appears down here. And once that task has appeared, we can click the reduce lag button underneath our character. What we want to see is these values both going to 0, and once they've gone to 0, we can come down here and complete the task that's going to give us back the values that we just had. And that way Notion is only referring to one task instead of hundreds, if not thousands of tasks that we've completed up until this point. And if we go back into the main interface, there's one other aspect I will mention, that down here there is a real-life RPG mobile. So if you're trying to use this interface on your phone, you can click on this one. That's just a nicer interface that is more optimized towards a mobile interface. So if you have the Notion app, you can use that page instead and everything will still work the exact same way. And then down the bottom, we also have project updates. From time to time, there's some edits to codes and whatnot. And instead of having to download a whole new system, I just give you the update pieces here, so that you can go through and click. And that includes any updates like this version that you can actually get for free as you go forward, because this whole system I'm building around a buy once, have forever type mentality. Grow together with this community and join the Discord so you can actually see how we're all moving forward together using the system. And likewise, if you have any questions or ideas for this system, jump on there because you can directly message me and we'll start to see how we can build this group together and start making this real life RPG system something that all of us love to use and continue moving forward towards our goals with. So if this system seems like something you'd like, you can find the link down in the description below. And for watching this far, I'll also give you a 10% discount if you use this code right here, level up 10. Doesn't matter what's capitalized and whatnot. But again, this whole system is based around the community doing the things we know we need to do. So hopefully this system will help you like it has helped me. And if you have any ideas, again, link in the description for that Discord. Come tell me how you're using it. Show me what you're doing. I'd love to see how you are leveling up in your life as well.